Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting to order.
We had a board meeting. Give me about 5 minutes.
Hey, please stand, do the pledge of allegiance. Please right hand over your heart. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everybody. Hey, can we please do a roll call?
Director Quady,
Here.
Director McMillan,
Here.
Director Pacala,
Yes.
Director Robert,
Here.
Director Avila.
Here. Okay, and it looks like we have members of the public. So item 2, this portion of the agenda may be utilized by any member of the public to address the board of directors on any matter within the jurisdiction of the board that does not appear on the agenda and on matters that are on the agenda but are not designated as action items. Depending on the subject matter, the board of directors may be unable to respond at this time or until the specific topic is placed on the agenda at a future Calleguas Municipal Water District Board meeting. In accordance with Ralph M. Brown Act, please limit remarks to 3 minutes. Members of the public, if you would like to speak to the board, please raise your hand. Okay, no raised hands. Items to be added to the agenda. Do we have any items to be added to the agenda? No, sir. Review of the agenda. Have all board members had time to review the agenda? Yes. Okay.
Yes, I do have some comments on the consent agenda. I don't have any comments on it.
Okay. No presentations, consent calendar. Okay, has everyone had time to review the consent calendar, and would anyone like to ask any questions? Dr. Pacala.
I do not have any comments on the minutes of the meeting, but I do have comments on the others. So I don't know how you want to do this one item at a time.
Go ahead, let's start with B. Receive and affirm the payment register for the district's activities from May 22nd, 2025 to June 23, 25.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, Mr. President. I do have a few questions on item 6B, bookmark page 21. There's a payment of $33,002 for JPW company for service area maps, timeline graph. My question is this for annexation purposes? If so, what type of annexation?
It's actually for public communication. Jennifer, do you want to explain what this is for?
Good evening, Director Pacala. So for part of our lobby redesign, as we anticipate more and more public coming to the district, we're designing a map feature that will go on the wall that shows people kind of the whole state of California and our water sources, as well as a zoom in on our service area and our facilities. And that'll help when we give tours and things to be able to point things out to people. So we have a consultant that's doing the graphic design for that right now, and that's JPW.
Yeah, when I saw service area, I thought some other service area, so I didn't understand it's for the Calleguas. Thank you for the clarification. On page 23, a payment of $46,000 for Quinn Company. This is for annual maintenance of the emergency generators. My question is simple. This particular payment is for 12 generators. Is that what district has, or do we have more than 12 generators?
Sir, for those are for all of our generators. Those are large generators as well as some of the smaller generators that we get serviced as well.
So that includes generators for the ASR, Wellfield, all the lift stations, all the pump stations, with the pump stations. Okay, thank you. Page 25, payment of 27,000 for sustainable mitigation weed abatement. Comply with the fire department requirements. I understand that. Does this again cover all the sites we have, or there's something else that we'll be doing ourselves?
So the payments are for the service that are provided during that month. The contract does cover the district in whole, and there are areas that our operators do as well. So
Thank you. That's all I have on item 6B.
Okay, does anybody else have questions on item 6B? Okay, item 6C.
Yes, again, just for my clarification, this weed abatement contract is for $450,000 for a 3-year period. It does include the hourly rates for the hourly rates. It includes hourly rates. My question is, does it also include the cost of living adjustments for the next 2 years, following 2 years? If the Calleguas were supposed to extend or proceed with the contract for 2 more years, does it include cost of living increases?
yeah, so the proposal that they provide is for a 3-year contract.
It's fixed based on the first year.
I'll double check.
Typically, the way those are structured is they allow us escalation based.
right.
Trisha, you may remember better than any of the rest of us because you administered those for so long.
So they get to include a bid markup, an hourly bid markup. So we would incorporate that for the next year.
Okay.
And most of the rates are tied. What they're actually proposing is a markup on a prevailing wage hourly price. So when the prevailing wage goes up, it goes up. Yes.
Thank you, Director Procala. Does anybody else have questions on 6C? Okay, 6D.
I just will have a comment on 6D. They did a thorough job, HR staff. It clearly tells you what type of changes are made, and it's just a regular update. And also, we're looking at some efficiencies within the operations of our Calleguas system. Good job.
Okay. And with that, we're gonna look for a motion for the consent calendar.
I make a motion.
Second. Okay, we have a person, a second.
Director Quady?
Yes.
Director McMillan is absent. Director Pacala?
Yes.
Director Robert?
Yes.
Director Avila?
Aye. Okay, the motion carries. Thank you, everybody. Moving on to 7 action items. Discussion regarding California Special Districts Association Board of Director elections.
So as the board knows, we're a member of the California Special Districts Association. They are currently having elections for a board member to be on the CSDA Board of Directors that represents the coastal network. That's the geographic region of which we are a part. There are 3 potential candidates, and the board can choose to vote for any one of these 3 or choose not to vote. Staff just needs direction on how to proceed, and then we'll take care of the mechanism of voting.
Okay. Do we have a recommendation from anybody that might know the candidates?
I would yield to Director Robert. DCSDA.
I don't have a specific opinion that I would convey to the board in any way that would sway the board's decision.
Did we receive any emails or letters or anything?
All we were given access to is the candidate statements that were included in the packet. So there's one for each of those candidates in the packet. That's all the information. I don't know any of these candidates personally either.
Mr. President, I did review the candidates' qualifications.
Okay,
As our general manager said, there are 3 candidates. Two of them are very strong candidates from my perspective, and I looked at their statements. Between the two, they have quite a bit of experience in the water resources arena. One of the candidates is a rocket scientist, aerospace engineer. The other candidate has been with CST in the water business for 8 years. They both are very strong candidates. So based on my review, we could have either one of them recommended by our board if we wish to.
or neither.
If it was up to me, I would just go with Scott Duffield.
Scott Duffield. Okay,
I concur with Director Pacala's review. I also reviewed the summaries and the two, it came down to 2 with me as well. And so I would go with the incumbent this time.
okay. So do we have a motion?
I make a motion that we select Scott Duffield
Okay,
for the upcoming election.
okay, we have a first and second. Roll call, please.
Director Quaiding.
Aye.
Director McMillan is absent. Director Pacala.
Yes.
Director Robert.
Yes.
Director Avila.
Aye. Okay, motion passes. Thank you, everybody. Moving on to item 8 is the monthly status report.
Yes, we're prepared with some highlights from this month's activities. As you can see, we also have a really awesome cover as well. And Charlotte's going to kick us off on item number 3.
Yes, good evening, President Avila, Vice President Robert, and directors. This highlight has to do with the Delta Conveyance Project Advocacy Day that we participated in on June 11th. I went up to Sacramento with President Avila, a Simi Valley City Council member, Elaine Litster, and we were part of a group that visited 9 legislative offices to advocate for the governor's trailer bill to streamline permitting for the DCP. We visited with 6 members personally, 3 staff members, and we were one of 5 teams. So they divided the folks into different teams and went out and met with about 40 legislative offices total. A number of Southern California water suppliers were there, other stakeholders. The Ventura County legislators we met with personally were Senator Limon, Assemblymember Bennett, and then the Chief of Staff to Senator Henry Stern. We did not visit Assemblymember Irwin because she has proclaimed her public support for this project. And the discussions focused on the significance of the DCP to Ventura County and Southern California as a whole. And we will continue to engage in this effort as necessary and appropriate.
Great, good stuff. And it was a great trip. And I did get a message from well, when I spoke to Assemblymember Irwin, she said, "Why didn't you guys visit me?" And I said, "Well, because we know you already support it." She goes, "Well, you guys could have stopped by at least." I said, "So, okay, next time, even though we know you support our efforts, maybe we'll consider stopping by with you as well."
Absolutely.
Thank you, Charlotte. The next highlight is actually, I'm going to handle. Oh,
Can I?
yes, sorry.
Mr. President, I just want to acknowledge that you have done a lot of great work.
Thank you.
You are passionate about this issue. We appreciate you going and attending so many meetings. I want to thank the entire Ventura County delegation, City of Simi Valley, Charlotte, Las Virgenes, and other members. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Director Pacala. Thank you. And thank you, staff, Charlotte. Thank you. Okay.
All right, so item number 13 is about a presentation that I did along with Ian, who's on vacation and not here tonight, And Director Pacala was present as well. We were invited by City of Camarillo Council Member Tony Tremblay to join at he does a monthly update at Leisure Village, which falls within his district. He does them on different topics. So he had us and Camarosa, along with one of their board members and their general manager, Norm Huff, speak about water reliability, future opportunities for collaboration, and also the basics of where the water comes from. Although this was a very well-informed audience, there were about 50 people there in person, but it was also being streamed, as well as apparently recorded and rerun on a loop for folks who weren't able to attend in person. It was a very engaged audience. They had a lot of really good questions. They really demonstrated a strong understanding of water. And as you may know, when Leisure Village uses recycled water for much of their landscape, they were really kind of early to do that. And during the drought, when outdoor watering was restricted to 1 day a week within our service area, they didn't have to do that because they were using recycled water. And in fact, I don't remember which organization was doing an investigation, saw how lush and green their lawns were and tried to make it into a big gotcha of, look, they're using all the water. And they're like, well, it's just all recycled. Really engaged audience, really great opportunity to engage with the community. I know Councilmember Tremblay really appreciated us taking the time to do that. So I just wanted to acknowledge that. I don't know if there's anything you want to add, Director.
Well, I just want to say it was a great meeting, as our general manager said. This community is really, really engaged. I didn't realize there were so many thousands of people watching on closed circuit TV. I didn't realize that. And you and Ian have done a good job. General manager for Camarillo Water District also had good presentation and fielded a lot of good questions. And then there was not enough time because we're limited by the TV time, I guess, to take all the questions. It was a great presentation. They all liked it. Thank you. Good job.
All right, on to the next item, which is gearing up for fire season. Unfortunately, once again, Jennifer is going to handle this item.
Yes, so in the month of June, we did a couple of different things to help the community prepare for wildfire season. The first one is Ian participated in the Ventura Regional Fire Safe Council's Firewise Lunch and Learn. And he was on a panel for this event where the other panel members were from Ventura County Office of Emergency Services, CAL FIRE, someone from the Fire Safe Council, and then Ian was representing the Municipal Water District here for Calleguas. It was very well attended. There were about 100 people there, and Ian fielded comments and questions regarding municipal water systems and their appropriate role in fighting wildfires. And he also talked about the response for the mountain fire and some of the mutual aid that we've provided. And so that went really well. The second thing that we did was we had the first of our monthly virtual classes, Firewise Living from Structure to Landscape. And this is a class that is taught by the UC Master Gardeners of Ventura County. It is entirely free and it's online, and it's going to be offered this last Tuesday of the month at 6 p.m. Every month through October. And the very first one had 64 attendees, which is quite good. So we are looking forward to continuing to provide this resource. We did advertise this class in the Acorn newspaper. It's on our website under the calendar section, and we advertise it through our social media platforms. We also gave the flyer out to our purveyors, and they advertised it for us as well through their newsletters and other ways that they reach their residents. So that's really exciting to see that coming around and being able to offer more of those classes.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Sure.
Do we have questions for Jennifer? Okay, no questions. Do we have another one?
Yes, and Jennifer's handling this one too, conveniently.
I'll stay here. The June Purveyors meeting was very fun because it was a field trip to Camrosa's GAC plant, which is their granular activated carbon water treatment plant that's over at their Conejo well field. This plant is pretty new and it treats groundwater to remove TCPs, which are trichloropropane. Okay. And this is something that when it became a regulated contaminant that had an MCL, Camrosa went and tested their groundwater and did find it in one area in the well field. So they built this plant to treat that so that they can use that water in their potable system. It can treat other regulated compounds as well, which is very cool. And so everybody that attended the purveyor meeting got a very interesting tour of that plant and how it works. And then after that, everyone went up the road, Hill Canyon Road, to City of Thousand Oaks wastewater treatment plant at Hill Canyon. And they have an administration building there with a conference room, and they generously let us use the conference room for the rest of our meeting. And that is where we had a roundtable discussion of the purveyors regarding their water quality concerns. And Jen Vasquez also presented the Calleguas career video series that she presented to you last board meeting. And everybody was quite excited about that. So she was able to kind of talk about some of our workforce development efforts and how those videos fit in. She also generously offered everyone kind of a template if they want to make their own videos, because she's already kind of worked it out as the director. And so she's happy to share that information. And that way people don't have to start from scratch. They'll kind of have a framework for making their own videos. And that was the purveyor meeting.
Thanks, Jennifer.
Sounds like a great one. Thank you,
Mr.
Jeff.
President, I was at this purveyors meeting myself, and I just want to acknowledge Jen Vasquez. She did a great job with her presentations for those clips. The purveyors were really impressed. And during the roundtable conference, they had very good comments and questions about what Calleguas is doing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our final item for tonight on the MSR highlights, Omar Castro, our manager O&M, is going to cover.
Right, good afternoon, members of the board. I'm going to present on our TrackVac maintenance system and what it's used for. So at the Lake Bar Treatment Plant, we have a wash water recovery basin. We have two of them. They're 700,000 gallons each. And when we backwash our filters, that's where that water goes into. And then we allow settling, and we create sludge at the bottom. And we remove that sludge through the TrackVac system. Each basin has two TrackVacs in there. And if you can imagine, a highly sophisticated pool vacuum. So our staff took it upon themselves to remove them one by one and rebuild them completely. That created some efficiencies for us. And if we did have to have an emergency and start the plant, we wanted to make sure that we had those here and not shipped out to Texas being repaired, and then the cost of maintenance to get them back as well. So David Rosas and Patrick Augusta, they are our electrical mechanical technicians who headed that off. And normally, you know, we go through those and do some wear parts every year. We noticed this year that there was quite a few worn parts, whether they're, you know, pulleys, wheels, guides, there's brakes on there. We just did complete rebuilds, and the complete rebuild, you know, probably going to last us 3 to 4 years, depending on how often they're used. But we will still pull them out and review them to see if there's any worn parts, because they're submerged in water constantly. So
That's great. Increased reliability, potential financial savings. Yeah, good job. Have questions from the board?
Yeah, I just, what was the improvements to the caustic, caustic injection point?
Oh, so on the caustic injection points, we replaced some supply lines. And there's basket strainers, there's different components in there. So that's what was done to the caustic line.
You changed out the feed.
Correct. Yeah, the feed.
Thank you, Omar.
Thank you.
Omar. And those are the highlights for June.
Okay, thank you. All right, now moving on from the highlights. Do we have any items that the board would like to go over? Director Robert,
None for me. Thank you.
Director Bacala? Okay,
I have few.
Director Quady.
I have 2926 photo question for 60, 61, 91 and 98.
Okay, Director Bacala?
I just have comments and questions. Item number 1 on page 127. The risk phase 1 report is almost done, the way I read the report. When do you expect to bring it to the board for presentation?
We actually already presented the findings to the board. I think it might have been, the timing might have been before you were on the board.
Maybe we're due for an update.
So we'll definitely do an update. We've already, while the report itself isn't totally final, it's very, very close. We have already moved into the implementation action, so we'll plan on an update. I'll look for a board meeting where we don't have, that's not, the agenda isn't otherwise too heavy.
Yeah, it's not that. I thought maybe you were going to bring it back to the board as part of the normal process. If that's not the case, just don't rush for it. I was just curious.
Just make a note and look for a kind of an opportune moment. There's a lot going on and I think the board will find interesting.
Bob, do you have any other numbers you would like to add to the list of?
I do.
Okay, which numbers?
Oh, item number 2, page 127. Item number 2, 127. 128. 129. Oh, we already covered 129.
Okay, you know, we'll go through the ones that he called out, and then if there's any missing, we'll add yours in. Number 2 was the candidates for the Metropolitan Water District General Manager. I had a question on that too, but
It was actually all things met, so,
okay, all things met.
but it did include that.
Oh, so Director Quady.
Yeah, I just have a quick question. I think San Diego County Water Authority, as I understand this correctly, can actually market its water to other MWDs. It has its own power to sell water to a member agency. Is that what I understand from that?
That is correct. Part of the settlement terms specifically called out their ability to market excess water in surplus to the demands to other member agencies. And then if there are no takers to Metro itself, the member agency price would be negotiated between the member agencies in San Diego. There is also a kind of concurrent policy that's being developed by Met for trades and exchanges between member agencies. And that is being finalized, and both of those items together may offer some additional resilience and reliability options for Calleguas. So we're watching the development with interest.
Thank you.
Anything else, Director Quady, on that one?
Yeah.
I had a question on just how's the search for new general manager going? Has there been any talk of potential nominees coming up? Or
There's a lot of talk.
any strong candidates coming?
They haven't announced a list of candidates. Some candidates have self-announced.
Okay.
So we know that our general manager from Las Virgenes, Dave Peterson, has announced that he's interested in the position. The process itself is moving forward. The public part of it happened last month, in which they reviewed the job description and some of the job duties. We were listening carefully because some of the directors kind of telegraph perhaps what their candidate may be coming from. So, there was a question, should the general manager have experience working with a board of directors? And the LA director said, well, a commission would be the same as a board, right? So that got written in. So go on their website and take a look at their commissions and see if you think that there's a candidate in there. But so far, it's been a fairly well-controlled process. The non-public parts have been held in closed session, and so far, there's been no reporting on the LA Times about what's happening in the closed session, which is a departure from past practice.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, on the same item, Mr. President, encourage that MWD is moving forward with the recruitment. And I'm hoping that they would hire someone before the end of this fiscal year, before Devin retires. But at least we can have some continuity.
Absolutely.
Schedule is to have the new general manager in place before the end of the year, and hopefully with a couple months of overlap. And then Devin's contract allows for a certain amount of continuity following his separation from service.
Thank you.
Thank you, Henry. Moving on to the next one that we have on the list is number 9. Number 9 is partnerships. The general manager and manager of engineering continue to participate in Ocean Well Water Farm #1 work group, technical advisory group, and regional exchange work group, and so on. What's the question on this one? Director Quady.
I just may have missed something. I've never heard of farm #1.
That's just what they're calling their original conceptual project. They've identified the coast off Malibu as the most promising location for their initial effort. That's based on a number of factors, including like the bathymetry of the ocean and what else is out there and where the water is needed and how to get it there. So that's just what they're calling Water Farm #1,
Okay.
with the idea that it would be one of potentially many.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
May I follow up on the same subject, Mr. President? So when is the company planning to do the pilot testing in the ocean?
That is not yet clear. They are doing the testing in Las Virgenes Reservoir right now. Obviously, that is not the ocean and it is not salty, but they see that as an opportunity to test the unit in conditions that are actually more challenging from a biofouling perspective, because there's just a lot less that will live in deeper ocean water than will in a freshwater lake. So they have a timeline that has them moving on that in the next couple of years. And if they can't get it permitted in California, they are also pursuing other states for that offshore testing.
Thank you.
And I just heard that they need at least a year to be able to get in data.
I would think that would be necessary and appropriate just because of how temperatures change cyclically, water quality, currents, tides, all of that. I would think that would absolutely factor in.
At what point during this process would the sub-agencies or the users of this water would know the cost of water?
That's a great question and one I would also like the answer to.
We don't have any schedules for that.
Not that I've seen, and I will acknowledge Ian has primarily been taking the lead on this and he is on vacation today.
Oh.
So I can see if he knows more in that regard, but I generally look through the agendas and stuff and I haven't seen anything specific in terms of timing commitment on that.
Okay. Thank you. I had a question from number 11. Sounds like you guys had United Water Conservation District out for some information sharing. I'm just wondering if anything good came out of that, any potential future partnerships?
I think it was a really great opportunity for information sharing and relationship building. We did a risk presentation and we focused in on the risk projects that involve United, and there's several of them. And their staff had just provided us some detailed review on some of those projects. That was actually kind of the last item that we were trying to wrap up so we can finalize the report. So we got some really good input on that. And then I wasn't around for the tour, but they toured both here and the well field. And the S&P was also, that was kind of like a last minute ad. They just, when we met them in the morning, they said, oh, so we were really hoping we get to learn more about the salinity management pipeline, and it wasn't in my presentation. So I was like, okay, well, if you don't mind me recycling a presentation from before, I can give one at lunch because I obviously wasn't going to create a new one while they were touring the plant.
Yeah.
So they found that super interesting. It is a potential component of their ebb flow project. They are looking at using the SMP to handle their brine discharge from that. So it was really helpful for them to understand kind of the overall big picture, and they asked a lot of questions. But because it was a bunch of engineers, they were mostly really impressed by the construction photos from the outfall.
Yeah.
Which is great because I love to talk about that. So it was fun for everyone.
Incredible. And the SMP, just the incredible foresight on that, and it continues to be a great project. So
Yep, absolutely.
understandable there. Director Quady, number 26.
Yeah, I just wanted to know, from Del Norte Water Company and the Benoni Group, do they have some, technical issues with the, assessment?
This is definitely an Ian question. Unless Director Bacala, you happen to know, and we're at the GMA meeting.
I was at the GMA board meeting. Del Norte, as you may already know, Scott, they don't want to pay the assessment fees. And the judgment says they may be exempt, I believe. So they're trying to say they should not be subject to both the United Water Conservation and potential assessments from Water Master for the hospital business. So at this time, GMA board did not accept any of their arguments. And they said they would look at doing it at a future date as we move forward with replenishment of water in the Las Posas Basin.
Thank you. Do you need more clarification on it, Director Quady? Would you like email from Ian?
No, that's okay.
Was that cover it? Number 60?
That's okay, yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Director Bacala. Number 60. Well, I'm sorry, before we go to that one, since let's go in order, I had number 36. Do we have any updates on the property in Smith Road? And the acquisition of the property?
Mr. President, good question. Yes, we do have a offer package that we've received from our right-of-way consultant that we're reviewing. Once we finalize that offer package, we would be presenting an offer to the property owner for their consideration in selling the property.
So we're close.
Close, yes.
Mr. President, I have a question about the comments that were received for the EIR circulation.
Yes.
There were 4 comments that were received. My question is, are they all related to aesthetics?
Not all related to aesthetics. I have to think back. Yes, okay.
Yeah, I think the one we received from the city was very focused on aesthetics. But the other 3, one was from Native American Heritage Commission, and it was just kind of reminding us of the need to consult, which we've already been doing for several years now. So that was kind of a routine letter. We got another couple of routine letters just kind of reminding us some of the things that we have to comply with.
It was like county watershed and.
County watershed, and then I think it was State Water Resources Control Board talking about the permitting for the tank.
Pretty standard. Like, remember you need to do the permits. Okay, and get the approval. Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Maybe somebody needs those reminders.
I know the 2 members of the public that they've called in, their concern was the height, size, and appearance of it. Have we thought of any potential solutions to that besides trees and paint? Anything we could potentially do to it?
To address the aesthetics, yeah, we are limited to what we can do because the tank is, in order for it to function correctly, it has to be set at a certain elevation.
Yeah.
So we're trying to work with the city and anyone who has concerns about aesthetics with using the types of trees, shrubs, maybe paint color to match surrounding other tanks in the area.
Yeah.
And the surrounding.
The types of trees that we're going to put there are types of trees that are normally found around there, or trees that will grow large enough to help cover the tank, or
So the design right now, we're working towards 50% design. We haven't engaged with the landscape architect, but that's something that we'll be in discussions with. If we can use native plants and shrubs to get a good balance of native plants as well as better coverage and screening.
We are constrained by the Ventura County Fire Department's list of landscape plants that they both approve and don't want. And some of the trees they really don't want because of the fire hazards and catching embers and that sort of thing. So that is one thing we're working with the city planning department on, to choose a paint treatment and landscaping that they are comfortable with and that they like, that also complies with the fire requirements. And to that point, we're redoing the visual simulations so that we have a more representative potential landscape plan that's reflected in those. And then we are also adding 2 additional visual sims based on our comments received from the public as well as from the city.
Okay. Have we looked into, rather than just a single color paint, working with the city on something that they like, or, whether it be a rock scene or maybe put the city's name on there?
They asked that at the meeting to the one participant, said, would you like us to paint rocks on it? And he said, God, absolutely not.
Now, that's something that we did discuss with the city staff when we met with them earlier. So a color name, a happy face, or is a happy face as you're coming down the 118 from the valley.
Yeah.
So our option,
Mentioned a happy face on the entire top. So when you're flying over it on one of the Southwest planes that flies through there, see this big happy face.
Well, maybe we can leave that open to them, if they come up with something in the future that they would like, then we can work with them to.
Oh, what about a community contest?
It's up to the city.
Ask for artwork from community members, do a contest like on the newspaper. That might be cool.
Some combination of mirrors or a hologram to make it disappear.
so yeah, we continue to have discussions with the city and on those options. Absolutely.
Yeah. All right.
See, from my perspective, water tanks are very common in Southern California.
Yeah.
Water tanks are always on hillside. If you look around anywhere, that's very common.
Yeah.
I think as a water district, we could do the best we could to appease our customers and stakeholders about this aesthetics. But we need water.
Yeah. Unfortunately, this one's not on a hillside. We're making a hillside for it.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
That's where the HGL needs to be. Trust me, people would have concerns if it was on the hillside too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you. You might be up next for the next one. I have a question on 50 and 51. Updates progress on potential wall. I did get your email. And also on 51 for potential cranes or other housing.
Mr. President, yes. Item number 50 regarding the secondary access. So a email, as you mentioned, was sent out to board members to rank this potential project. Once I receive all those ranking sheets, I will summarize the scoring and then return back to your board for consideration of creating a new capital project to build that secondary access point.
Before I even get to that, I mean, the point that you brought up earlier that staff was stuck on the property because there was an accident at the intersection. That makes it, a lot higher priority than I had previously thought. I hadn't thought about, potential accidents or fires at the intersection or at the road. And staff is stuck here. Fire can spread around you guys and you have one way out. That seems pretty high to me.
Well, the other one along the lines is, if there's some issue like a chemical spill on site, you block off the rest of the property, right? Let's say there's damage to the road going back to staff housing. I mean,
yeah.
And the board can reflect that priority in reviewing the capital project evaluation sheet.
And I am. The reason I mentioned it was because of the topic he mentioned earlier, and I wanted the rest of the board to know.
can I ask,
Deadline is July 11th.
Yes, you can have,
That was
the sooner the better, but yeah, next week.
If anyone would like a hard copy and they'd like to fill it out after the meeting tonight,
I'll fill it out right now.
we'll get that to Fernando will get one to you.
Excellent. Yeah, I have copies.
Any other questions on staff housing or wall?
Dr. Rob?
Yeah, the total estimated cost, it says 360,000 in the cost consideration. It's 360 to 600. Selected alternative having the lowest cost among other benefits. Is that something that you're going to be going over later, or should I ask about it now?
So that cost, that range was based on the various alternatives we looked at here. The recommended one is the lowest cost, and the others ranged at higher cost because they required more improvements, longer access paving roads. So what's been recommended is the lowest cost option.
How did we explore discussions with the HOA over there, and do we have any information from them?
Yeah, so we've reached out to the HOA as well as the two property owners specifically to this option to have conversations. The HOA already responded, said no concerns, keep us posted. And we're planning to meet with the property owners to explain the importance of this access road and future access point, the gate and the reconstruction of the wall. So that has not happened, but that's been scheduled with property owners.
Yeah, because it's not actually the HOA that owns the property that we would need
Right. Makes
easements
sense.
across or acquisition of. It's two individual homeowners.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Well, it's, the first step of the HOA is good news, right?
Yes.
So. Hopefully the homeowners are understanding.
I think they would be.
Okay. When is your meeting with them scheduled for?
Well, I believe, I have to confirm the date, but I believe it's next Tuesday.
Great. Thank you, Fernando.
Thank you.
Thanks, Fernando.
Item 60, Director Quady.
Yeah, it's just a photo question. I don't know which it belongs to, this photograph, 60 or 61. Is that trenching for one or both? For both. So that's where the cable and the connection was.
That to me looks like 61,
61.
61? Oh, okay.
because that's the dam in the background.
That's just like, okay. Very good. Thank you.
Okay, I have a question about 62. Says we did upgrades to security cameras. What kind of upgrades did we do? More cameras, higher quality cameras? Or is it a closed session topic?
We have laser.
Do we
Get on the same, I had to get on the same page, what the reference was. As part of exploring opportunities for additional cameras at remote facilities, we have installed a pair of cameras out at our East Portal facility. And we are going ahead and evaluating those to see how that service works and getting it set up. So we're still finishing procuring our licensing for the alarming package on them. But it's a different style, different system, but then would give us the opportunity to utilize, potentially utilize those at other locations.
Where do they send the video to? How do we see that feed?
It is a cloud in this case. So this is a fully online service. So it's not hosted by any of our servers or any of our equipment, but they have their own dedicated network connection so that there's no crossover into any of our network for cybersecurity reasons. And it uploads to a cloud, and in their cloud system, we access via a web page.
Who would view it, and in what circumstance would we be looking at that?
That's what we're still evaluating with this system.
Yeah.
So we're trying to get the alarming structure figured out as to how we're going to handle alarming, when that would be brought up or not brought up, if that's something that we're going to be trying to task operations on or not. But that's what we're trying to figure out is how this system would work out there at these sites.
And there's power redundancies.
What's that?
Is there power redundancies?
It is in a situation at that location where we do have backup generators. So that one would be, that would be the case. You know, if we go to other facilities, that will be something we'll have to, being evaluating whether we're putting them on UPS units or not in places that don't have a backup generator at it.
So do they send alerts out when they sense motion?
That's what I'm still trying to get set up. So we got them installed and we're working on the setups of the cameras right now. But yes, the camera company that we're using for those has a full AI analytics package to them.
Oh.
So we're trying to figure out how we can set that up to best notify, but not over notify as well.
Yeah, that was my thought when you mentioned there was a new style camera as well. We already have the display in the control room, when or for what reasons would somebody open these up and how, right? So.
Yeah. And it's always, potential if we needed to add more TVs in that room, that's something we could do too.
And Omar has something to add on this one.
So the difficulty of cameras, and I really learned this from our tour at Metropolitan, was that they took their operators and let their operators focus on managing the system, water quality, pressures, and they had a separate system for monitoring all their cameras.
Yeah.
As we include that in our system, we'll have to come back and figure out what is the best approach of monitoring those as we get alarms and everything.
Yeah, it almost seems to me like we've grown to the point where, we pay for security contract, somebody that checks on our properties at night. It's almost to the point where we should just hire a nighttime security guard, instead of take that responsibility away from the, control room operators like we've mentioned before. It makes sense to have them concentrate here and also try and look up there and.
Yeah, we share that concern, and I think that's absolutely something we need to be talking about.
I think I had brought it up before, as water districts, we under California state law, we do have the authority to hire law enforcement to be on staff, so.
More to come on that topic.
Okay.
Can you add 6?
Okay, item 56, go ahead, Director Robert.
Can you elaborate on the issues that we had with people space?
How much time you got?
Great. It's not a big deal. I just hadn't seen it.
Director Robert, good question. So we substantially completed the reconfiguration of the cubicle space months ago. There were a couple things that needed to be replaced because what was brought was not the correct pieces. So the vendor People Space has been trying to get the right pieces when they order from the manufacturer, the supplier. And every time they've shown up, I think 3 times when they've gone to fit, whether it's different panelings that need to be replaced, they have not fit. So the last time they were supposed to have confirmed in the factory that they were the right pieces, they showed up and they were still wrong. So I think this is going to be the 4th time they're going to show up, and hopefully 4th time's the charm, but we'll find out.
So some of those, actually good question, because I was gonna ask, when I walked around the office space earlier, I did notice, some of the office look incredibly nice. Trisha's, caught my eye. Is that part of the same deal with?
No.
Shows was furnished and decorated by Grant Burton, our former manager of HSC. So that's why her office looks.
That's cool.
He had a decor, yeah.
Yeah, I saw that office, I was like, wow, this is.
And so it says that the company offered for the outstanding furniture that wasn't delivered. Is that what it is?
Those pieces that are yet to be installed. Yes.
They're still going to install them?
They still are. Yes. Yeah.
Are they Grant Burton design?
They're not, unfortunately.
All right. Item 91, Director Quady.
So I was just wondering if, so are there several multi-state resource agencies that would?
No, there is not. So that's the MS multi-state resource. That's the main one. They were severely cut of the federal funding cuts that happened, something like an order like 75%. I think I was in the previous report before. They have come back now and said that the only way that they can succeed and keep going is to go ahead and start doing a paid membership program. the services that they offer, a lot of those services are also covered by CISA or by other organizations, not a multi-state organization, but other federal organizations that are still available to agencies at no cost or low cost as well. So that's where we're evaluating the services that they had compared to others and whether there's a need to continue our participation in that program or not.
They offer something unique and special.
Yeah, and then they're basing the membership dues are based off of the amount of your total budget for the organization. It's not the IT budget, it's the total budget for the organization as well. So their membership fees are an interesting structure that they have. So that's why we're evaluating.
Thank you.
Okay, and I had Director Robert, 92.
I was just curious about the phishing campaign. How does that metric look like compared to what we're hoping to be as 93%? Or is a 2.3% click rate pretty low?
The 2.3% click rate is like 1 or 2 clicks. It's usually the 1 point something percent usually equates to 1 click, and then the 2.1 is usually 2 clicks is what it is.
Is that pretty good for where we want to be?
Yes.
It
I
seems,
mean, I would love it to be 0, right? But but sometimes that's going to be the case. And every time somebody does click on it, they do get the additional training to help pull that in. Yes.
thanks.
Thank you. Director Quady, 98.
Yeah, probably another question. Resolving the historian issues with attorneys.
Yeah, so as you guys know, a while ago, we went through our turnout upgrade project where we upgraded all of the turnout software. And during the process of running here on that new system now for several months, we've been experiencing conditions where the local historians at the turnouts themselves stop replicating the data to the historians here at the yard. So we haven't had any data lost because the local PCs are keeping that data, but they're not moving it to the data here. Our contractor has been working through those issues with Aviva, and Aviva gave them approval to make some modifications on like grace period timers. It's having to do with the COM delay. So because the turnouts are on cellular, sometimes their process of getting the data and the talking of the two servers to each other, the PC to the server, has a little bit of a delay in it, and that's what's been causing the issue. So we've made some adjustments. And so far, have not had any more issues since we've been making those adjustments.
Good, very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Wes. Okay, do we have any other questions?
Well, I had a few questions. I'm not sure what happened. I missed once your read. Are you going in alphabetical order?
Yeah, I take all the numbers and then I go down the
I think
list.
we're going to go back to Director Pacala.
Which numbers? do you
Okay,
have, Director
thank you.
Pacala?
I didn't know what we're supposed to. Okay, thank you. Going back to item 2, this is about treated water costs for calendar year 26-27. It's about metropolitan issue. I just want to have some comments and then have a question. So, as you're all aware, our management team, our general manager, deputy general manager, strategist and finance manager, they all have been going to these meetings for more than a year now. And
Yes, we have.
and they have collaborated with 17 other purveyors. And they were able to work with lots of other purveyors. And at the end, what our team was supposed to do was, with collaboration with others, they got 17 other member agencies supporting what we are proposing for the treated water rates. Only one member agency had a different view. And the rest of the member agencies were neutral. To me, that's a great success.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say thank you to all the hard that our team has done to getting to this stage.
Yes, and I want to make sure Dan gets acknowledgement as well, because he did a lot of analysis for us on this and helped demystify some of the really technical finance stuff for me and Henry as we went through this.
Yeah, I thought I did say finance manager.
For a shout out, because Dan doesn't usually engage in net issues at that level, and I don't know how we could have gotten through it without his support on that.
I understand. The question I have is, when do we expect Metropolitan to consider and approve the next budget cycle rates?
Let me answer that question beginning with an answer to a different question that you didn't ask.
Yeah.
Which is what is scheduled for next week is for them to approve the treated water cost recovery rate structure. It's a policy, it isn't a specific rate, but it's one of the budget assumptions that they will need to work into their calculations as they move forward. They will begin the budget deliberations this fall, which is early. And it will go through, they will adopt it next June, I believe, for the calendar year following. So there's time. There has been a development since the monthly status report. We're aware that the city of Los Angeles has filed a public records request.
36-page, very detailed book record act.
Right. So the question will be whether next week, whether the board of directors will go ahead and approve the rate structure, even without all the information being available that they have requested. There, as the general manager mentioned, it's a 6-page request. It's basically all the data going back to 2014 on anything related to treated water. So there's a lot that will need to be pulled together.
Lots going on. Thank you.
Do we know why LA wasn't on board with this?
We can speculate. They haven't been particularly forthcoming except to say that they like status quo. Status quo allows them to use the capacity without paying anything other than a volumetric cost for when they use it. The majority of costs for the treated water rate are fixed costs having to do with capacity. Very little is variable based on the rate. The status quo rate is 100% volumetric. Right. So what this represents is a more equitable way of allocating that unused capacity, because there's no volumetric charge for capacity that no one uses.
Thank you, Henry.
Item number 22 on page 133. This is about turnkey turf transformation projects. The report says all projects for the cities of Port Hueneme, Oxnard, and Simi Valley are pretty close to completion. My question is this program still available for other cities like Mopar, Camarillo, Thousand Oaks, or county unincorporated areas if they wish to apply?
Well, this one was a grant that was received and it's shared among several of our agencies. So we worked in the very beginning to identify sites, and we had to choose sites that were in mapped disadvantaged communities to comply with the grant requirements. So those sites were kind of pre-screened. We talked with all of our cities that had any mapped disadvantaged communities and potential areas, and we kind of went through that whole process at the very beginning while we were actually preparing the application for the grant. And we came down to these 3 cities had sites that could be used. So while they are not eligible to be part of this program, there is still definitely rebates available at a higher level for public agencies through Metropolitan's turf replacement program. And they also have kind of a concierge service that helps step public agencies through the process of applying. So that is what's available. And that's regardless of whether you're in a disadvantaged community or not. So Yeah, and so the point at which we're at right now is we're getting very close to them being able to work with the designer and come up with the actual site plan. And then the next step would be the turf removal and then the planting and the irrigation and all of that. So that's kind of where we stand with everyone.
Thank you. Item 36, page number 136. Smith Road, already covered Smith Road. Bank, I already asked that question. Item 64, this is the ASR well field. Operation maintenance staff has conducted water quality sampling to comply with the DDW water quality requirements at the ASR well field. My question is, how does this water quality testing different than if the well is owned by a purveyor? Are there differences between other wells and the ASR well field?
No, there's no difference. It's just we have, with the new total coliform rule, we have to run our wells. Used to be we would sample them only if we were running them quarterly. Now it's every quarter that we have to do that. And after the drought, we've seen some iron and manganese. So because of that, it triggered us to do quarterly monitoring for iron and manganese as well. So it's not just dependent on, it's not because they're ASR, it's just under our DDW permit.
So my understanding was typically they don't require quarterly for the wells. Unless there's something triggers, maybe in this case, iron manganese triggered.
Yes,
Okay, got it. Okay. Thank you.
Very convenient to have a regulatory compliance supervisor, Amy Mueller, here tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you, Amy.
Item number 67. Page number 140. 2 abandoned wells are required to be inspected semi-annually by DDW, given the well's proximity to Santa Susana Tunnel. So my understanding is Ventura County and GMA have requirements for abandoning the wells, destroying the wells. My question is, do these 2 abandoned wells should be destroyed under the county regulations?
Yeah, Amy, could you just come to the podium, make sure everybody can hear you?
Yeah, sorry. So actually one is abandoned and it's been capped to be protective of it. We don't have to do anything other than that because the pump's been pulled. The other one is being used by a home, actually. It was a house that had burned down previously and it wasn't being used and now they are using it for their home. And so our permit requires us to, they think that it might be hydronically connected to the Santa Susana Tunnel. So instead of going through tons of studies to prove it, we just do 2 inspections a year just to make sure that there's like no access, like there's no gaping holes or anything that could potentially get contaminants into the ground.
I see. So my thought was if they're really abandoned, they should be destroyed.
Right.
Destroyed in the sense they go down like 50 feet.
Yeah, so it looks like we have a little bit of an inaccuracy in the monthly status report. We said they were both abandoned. One is abandoned and capped, one is privately owned and in use. Yep. So we'll make sure that's correct next time.
Thank you. Okay. That's all I have.
Helpful. Thank you, Director Pacala. Director McMillan, do you have any questions on the limit?
No, and I apologize for being out. I had to be on a call with the chair. I've been difficult.
Completely understandable. All right, thank you. All right, with that, we are done with the monthly status report. And I'm gonna call for a 5-minute, so 5-minute break. See you all in 5 minutes. Call this meeting to order. Item 8/2025 financial report. Dan.
Hi, good evening, directors. Tonight we're going through the May 2025 financial statements. So water sales, like I've been talking with the White Eastern sales, are continuing to be a little bit higher than what we had projected in the budget. So we're at 68,955 in water sales, and budgeted for through May was 65,840. So that's a good thing. It isn't resulting in a little bit higher water revenues, net of the water costs, in the tune of about $600,000. It should be a little bit more, but we do have water loss from the lake as it's been warm and not raining. So that evaporates some of the water up there, and that contributes to the cost of the water as well. Looking at our year-to-date admin expenses, we continue to be under budget, which is a good thing. That's savings for us. So we've spent 23 million through the month of May, and we have budgeted just the guessing budget of 25.9 through May. Taxes and interest continue to be well above, especially the interest at this point. So we're close to $3 million above budget on that because of the interest that we've received, as well as the market increase on our investments. Which brings us to the overall operating income. So overall for the year, we're about getting close to $7 million above where we thought we'd be at this point of the year, which is good because we only have 1 month left. So we're looking good for the end of the year. And then the principal and interest, we're continuing to see savings there because we refinanced those bonds and the interest rate did actually go down on those. So we are paying less interest and we are still making out, even though we are not going to get the subsidy for the federal grant, the rest of it this year. Looking for the month of May overall, we did have a little bit over budget because we had a little extra water sales, but it was pretty small. But we did have some of that evaporation, which caused the cost of water to be a little bit higher than we expected. But there was saving on the operating expenses. So overall, our operating income was a little bit better than we had budgeted. So we had a net plus of $90,000. The non-operating expense, when you're looking at that negative 616,000, really has to do with the investments that we had in the market value, which is not really a cash entry. It's more of an accounting entry from our side. But it's still something we do every month. We take our investments up or down to market. And this time there was a pretty large decrease in that. That's not budgeted. So that affects that number there. But overall, we hold all of our investments to maturity anyways. So it's an unrealized gain and it goes away by the time we actually, the investments mature. And the capital related expenses are mostly depreciation, but that came pretty close on to budget. So overall, it looks like we had a negative $460,000 for the month, but a lot of it was not anything cash related because of the investments and the market value. So, I mean, really, it's not that bad. And you're going to see that reflected in my next numbers here with the cash, because what you're going to see is that cash actually did increase by $2 million in the month of May. So even though the financial statements are showing this, because we had some of these non-cash transactions, our cash still went up due to the extra water sales and the savings from spending. To kind of go over some of the ratios that we have, you're going to see that we did have our current ratio decrease, which is, again, normal for this time of year, as well as a quick ratio. A lot of that has to do with the increase in liabilities right now. As we're getting into the larger water months, our liability off to metropolitan's increasing, which brings that ratio down a little bit. But overall, it's still a very strong ratio. Anything greater than 1 is good. And we're at 9 for our current ratio. So we're still very strong financially. And the debt ratio just increased a little bit because, again, firstly, because the liabilities are increasing at this time, which causes it to go up just a little bit. We are still really strong on our debt service coverage, even though it went down a little. 2.67 is still much higher than what we had budgeted. We were budgeted at 2.05. So again, we're in very good shape to make it over the 2.0 debt service coverage for this year, which will be the first time since I've been here in 14 years that that's happened. So I'm really happy to see that, at least on a nothing that was weird in the system that was happening at the time. And then times interest earned is also looking very strong because of the lower debt interest that we're paying. That's all I have on the financial statements for this time. A couple months before we bring the next one, because it'll be a while before we get the June numbers done. Mr. Director Paula.
Dan, you mentioned evaporation, about evaporation losses. Are you referring to the lake board evaporation?
Yes, evaporation on Lake Bart.
Okay.
If it's open to the air, right, as the heat comes,
is it higher this year compared to?
I have not. It happens every year. I don't not know if it's actually higher this year or not.
I suspect it varies depending on, it depends on the weather. If it's hotter, if it's, less cloudy. there's some variation. Whether that variation is meaningful in the scheme of our budget,
Yeah.
I suspect not.
I don't think so either, but it's just something to be aware of.
Mentioned there, so I thought maybe that's.
We'll mention it because it does have an effect.
Happening in the atmosphere.
The birds do drink a little.
It's not typical when you're looking at, some of these numbers. Like you're gonna see let me go to this maybe. Like this one, where you're seeing the water revenues, you expect it to be a little closer, or a little further apart, because more revenues than the expenses. And when it gets close like that, it's because there's some of this loss of the water from the evaporation.
Okay. You already mentioned this about table 151, where you show the ratios, current ratio and quick ratio. As you mentioned, they are decreasing. Is the main reason because the liabilities is decreasing or because of other financial situation?
This one's really because of the liabilities.
Okay, only liabilities. Okay.
Because that's the denominator, the bottom number, and that's causing that ratio to come down a little bit.
Right. So because we refinance the bond, so this number is decreasing.
Yeah, but so some of these, let me go to that. Okay, so the current ratio is current assets and current liabilities, and the debt, that the bonds, that's long-term. That's not even included in this. So this is just saying like the cash and investments we have, can we pay our current liabilities, like all of our accounts payable? And we can do that 9 times over. And then the quick ratio takes out the fact that we have in those assets, we have inventory, all that water that's sitting out on the ground. And that's not real easy for us to get rid of compared to like our investments. And so we take that out to make sure that we're still looking good.
Okay. Yeah. I concur. Financially, Calleguas is sound. Yeah.
Thank you.
Good job, Dan.
Great job.
Any other questions from the board?
Happy new fiscal year.
Is that a holiday for finance?
Almost.
Thank you, Dan. Okay, moving on to the item 3, Calleguas 2024 Annual Water Quality Report. Amy Mueller.
All right, good evening, directors. I'm gonna, briefly describe our 2024 annual water quality report, and then I'll roll right into invasive mussels. They kind of go together like peanut butter and jelly, so why not? So since 1998, I'm gonna say annual water quality report and CCR interchangeably, they mean the same thing. Since 1998, EPA has required water systems to produce a consumer confidence report and a water quality report. The purpose for for water systems customers to be able to know what the quality of the water is they consume makes a lot of sense. There's 2 different types of requirements for the consumer confidence report. Depends on what type of water system you are. So Calleguas is a wholesaler, so we have a different requirement than a consecutive system or retailer, just in terms of when the report is due, not in terms of the content. So our report is due April 1st of every year, just as Metropolitan's is, because they're a wholesaler. So the way things go is we get our data from Metropolitan, we get their flows, we get their water quality data, and then we collect our water quality data from our Lake Bard water filtration plant and from our well field. And we put it all together and we send it to our purveyors by April 1st. And we put every constituent that's in our Title 22 required by the Division of Drinking Water in the report. So detections or non-detections, the purveyors get to see that. And then the next step is once we get that out, we did that little dance with Metropolitan because since they have the same requirement as us, it's a lot of hurry right at the end of the April 1st deadline. And then after we do that, so we've met that April 1st deadline, then we actually abbreviate the tables into just the detections. Those are the requirements by the CCR rule. So we give that to our purveyors also because they can use that directly for their consumer confidence reports and their water quality report. And then we have till July 1st to actually produce a report that you see here. So this is the cover of this year's report. The data is from 2024. So we always put this year's title, but it's last year's data. Here. Okay, so we break down our report is about 8 pages long, but we have 2 different tables in our report. We have our primary drinking water standards that have primary maximum contaminant levels, and then we have our secondary ones. And I just wanted to point out a couple nuts and bolts of the report that all reports have to have. So you have to include the maximum contaminant level of the constituent, and you only have to list the ones that had detections. Then you put the average and range, and then you have to, we also put in, because we have different sources, we put in the percent supply. So you'll see that for this year, we had 98% of metropolitan from the Jensen plant, all state project water, no Colorado River water. Some years we've reported that as well if we see water from Weymouth. And then we have our 2% of our Lake Bard water filtration plant. We did produce water from our well field this year, but not enough to make it to the report. And a couple things that I wanted to point out on the primary results is that Metropolitan does monitor for PFOS and PFOA and nitrosamines. They had all non-detections for 2004, so that's why it doesn't show up in the report. We did not monitor for PFOS and PFOA. In 2004, we didn't monitor for nitrosamines and they were not detected. So you don't see that here, but we did look at them. And then I think this is an important thing to point out too. So disinfection byproducts are organics that combine with residuals with chlorine or ozone, and Jensen, coming out of Jensen's plant, range from 13 to 27. And the longer the disinfection byproducts are in the system, the higher the numbers would get. So I think it's pretty impressive that our operators are able to move the water pretty quickly and with least attention time as possible, because ours range from, let's see here, from 13 to 36. So I think that's not much of an increase. And we have to think about our purveyors next down the line, what they're going to get, and the water is going to stay in their system too. So we want to keep them well under the MCLs for that. And then also you notice that the chlorine residual is a little bit higher this year. That's because Met bumped up their Jensen effluent from 2.7 chloramine residual to 2.9 to work on to battle nitrification. Let's see here. Okay, and then this is our secondary standards table. Same sort of requirements in terms of the average and range and the different sources, the same percentages there. And a lot of times people are confused because aluminum shows up, it's the same data, but it shows up in the primary and the secondary table. Secondary are aesthetics and primary are health effect MCLs. And the reason why it does it is just because it has 2 MCLs. So that's a little bit confusing for people because it is the same data. And then you'll notice that the values, I don't know if you can even see on the screen, but our values for Lake Bard water filtration plant are very close to Jensen values, which makes sense. We're putting their water into our lake and then treating it again by our Lake Bard water filtration plant. And you will notice there are slight differences, and I think those can be attributed to the fact that we're not online all year, and we do have different probably detection method limits for our laboratory. And then all the consumer confidence report also is an opportunity for us to share additional information to our customers. So we take the opportunity to talk about water use efficiency. I think we all work pretty hard at getting the water quality great here. And so we want, now the customers, it's their turn to use it efficiently. So we want to point that out in our consumer confidence report. And then the challenge is current and anticipated. So there's been 4 additions to the consumer confidence report rule. And in 2027, it's going to change again. And we're going to be required to distribute our report twice, April 1st and October 1st. So that will be a change for us. And this is for all water systems above a certain threshold. So it's going to be a change for everyone. There's a few other things but I think every time they amend the rule, they're just trying to get a little bit closer to people being able to get their data quickly and see what they're consuming. So, I mean, it makes sense. And then another challenge that I find that all water systems have is that the required language is sometimes confusing or misleading. For example, in the report, so there's certain regulatory requirements that you have to list. And so you have to you can't call them constituents, you can't call them chemicals, you have to call them contaminants. To me, that's pretty awful because that's like just minerals in the water, but we have to call them contaminants, and that's not changing in the 2027 report. Okay, now jumping into invasive mussels. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'll go back.
Stop for a question.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I just want to know, so the half year decision now is that going to give you a whole year summary? Or you're doing half year?
You still do the whole year. So like you'll do, for this example, for this year, we would be like April 1st, we would do all of 2024. And then if there was no changes, we would just send it out again on October 1st. So I think it's like to capture if there are, violations or new information for the water systems. Yeah. And there's some certain things like there's also required language for nitrate MCL like exceedances, but now the new rules change into like, if you're over half the MCL, you have to put in the required language too. So some of the things like that, that won't affect us, but yeah, still.
But again, that's still only their language.
Yep, exactly. They control the language, yeah.
Thank you.
Sure,
So Amy, I have two questions about the water quality report.
sure.
I'm so glad you clarified that CCR and water quality reports. I was used to CCR.
Yes,
Now you
Same.
use either of those?
you can, they mean the same. A lot of people just like to call them the annual water quality report because I think it just makes more sense to the customers.
Okay. Now, as you also mentioned, I think your report clearly shows other important things for Calleguas, like where the water comes from, source water.
Yep.
And several like lead and fluoride.
Right.
I think it's all very good information.
Yeah, a lot of it is required, like the source water, and you have to say with source water assessment where they can find that information. So yeah, that's required, but yeah, it is going
And
to.
also like that Spanish sentence, I don't know what that means.
Yeah, I mean, I know Metropolitan has to put theirs out in like 26 different languages. I mean, because of, accessibility, yeah.
Are these Calleguas required to put in Spanish or we chose to do it?
We chose to do it.
Okay, good. I do have another question about I don't like the contaminants either, but I was calling, say, constituents, but anyway. So we test for 150 contaminants, correct?
Correct.
Drinking water, water quality.
For the Title 22.
Yes. And of the 150, 32 of the contaminants are shown in our report. About 24 of them are non-detects. The 24 are detected.
I see.
Okay?
Yeah.
So what that means is the remaining, that means we don't test them every year, or why are they not shown?
So I think there's a couple answers to your question. So it's because we put our data and Met's data together. If Met has a detection, because we serve that water, we have to put it in, and then we might not have a detection for that or vice versa. So I think we test for our wells like every 3 years. So the data could be up to 3, but the Lake Bard, since we didn't include in this one, it's not applicable. But for Lake Bard, we do every time we run, we do a full Title 22.
So if a customer or the purveyor would like to get all the 150 contaminants, we have that available for them.
Yes.
Okay. But we are not required to put it in the.
Correct. Only the detection. So that's why, yeah. Yep. So if one of our sources is a detection, we just put both unless we've not sampled for that one, but we have. So we always put non-detect.
One more question on the water quality report is, as you stated, MWD fluoridates their water.
Right.
And water has been fluoridated since 1945. It has been used in other places. With the new administration's position on fluoridation, what does Metropolitan look forward to? Are they thinking about what is their long-term plan for the fluoridation?
I can answer that.
Yeah.
I have asked for a panel to be convened from the Fluoride Action Network Group, who is opposed to fluoridation, and some other people on the positive side. So we want to have a real meaning debate about this because we've been having some public call in and be concerned.
Mm-hmm.
And I have concerns too. And I want to hear from the experts, and the entire board wants to now at this point. So it's coming up. The problem is people keep retiring. They disappear. So it's still a work in progress, but we expect it to come together maybe within a month.
Oh, good.
So definitely when that gets posted, you'll probably want to watch it.
Yeah, because we may get questions from the constituents here, why is still Metropolitan fluoridating? I mean, some people may ask us, that's why I was curious.
Yeah, I was there when we actually had a barrage of dentists show up at our board meeting and just meeting after meeting or comment after comment. And I think the board finally just gave in because it said, okay, if the medical community thinks it's important, then probably should. So that's how it happened.
Okay, thank you.
As I understand it, though, it was the state that actually established fluoridation first. Of the metropolitan service area member agencies, they got together and it ended up being Pete Wilson.
It was a Pete Wilson.
Pete Wilson. And so it's a state thing. So what the feds do, something,
Yeah, because we supersede.
different, but you look fine, but it's really the state is the one that called the ball, and the feds, of course, they copied Elizabeth. Sig, thinking on that.
Yeah.
Based on the title.
Right.
22 stuff from the state.
Yeah, and I think a lot of water systems received funding to fluoridate, so if they were on the list, they had to, and the metropolitan just said, well, that's sort of silly, all these agencies fluoridate, why don't we just be the central location, we'll fluoridate, and so since then, they've been fluoridating. Yeah, and yeah, that can't change until our regulations change, right? The regulations still require fluoridation, so.
Do they fluorinate their untreated water as well, or the member agencies that receive the treated water, the untreated water treated?
Untreated is just
Some
raw.
of them may fluoridate it and some of them don't.
Really?
So it depends.
The law, when it came into place, was that you were required to do it if funding was made available.
Oh.
So there were agencies, if the funding wasn't made available to them, they didn't do it. Of our retailers, only PHWA does fluoridate their water.
I didn't know that.
They have, with the water that comes out of the Port Hueneme brackish water plant is fluoridated, at least last I knew. But none of the other groundwater sources locally are fluoridated. So it means our customers, depending on whether they're getting 100% Calleguas water, 100% Purveyor local water, or some combination thereof, are getting a variety of
That's interesting.
fluoridation.
And I'm glad you asked that question. I was gonna ask the same question. I get questions about fluorination so often.
Yeah, it's a common.
Right, the most common question I get. So
I wonder how Port Hueneme will either fluoridate or not, depending on the metropolitan regulation changes or not.
We'll see.
Keep an eye on it.
wait,
There is so much information packed into this. But I mean, that's just amazing.
Yeah,
Great job.
thank you. It's good when we can get customers to call because it is a lot of information. So I always like when they do call, or, we direct them to, because our purveyors, they have additional sources too. So we can't really speak for their distribution system and things, but it is really nice because then you have an opportunity to explain some of the stuff, because it is a little bit intimidating. If we're doing this day to day, but if I didn't know, I would be like, oh my gosh, that's a lot, so.
I had a nephew tell me that he didn't understand the board fee. I tried to come up with things. So parts per million is 1 drop per 13.2 gallons, and part per billion is 13,208 gallons. So some people just can't wrap their head around what the.
Right. What the volume, the concentrations are. Yeah, that is tricky. Yeah, and the consumer confidence rule says what concentrations you're supposed to use in the table. So there might be one that's a little bit more user friendly, but we can't use that one. We have to use what they prescribe. So.
my question was gonna be, I get questions so often on water quality, and I always send them a link to the water quality report. Have we tracked how many clicks we get on that page of our website? I'm curious how often, it gets viewed. Yeah, it'd be good to know if anyone could find that out.
I can check with our website consultant and see. We do have it posted a few different places, so we could look and see how many clicks are on there.
Yeah.
We should do a water quality contest.
Do we mail or just post?
Agencies.
We just post.
Just post, okay.
We do mail a few to each water purveyor just so they have.
Okay.
But yeah, we send it mostly electronically.
Something to note that Amy also gets is any purveyors that don't have a water source, they'll use our CCR as their template. But then they use Amy as the resource. So when people have water quality questions, they send them to Amy.
Wow.
So she's doing a lot of outreach, which she's not sharing, but she's really doing a great job.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you for.
And I kind of remember that being a purveyor of Calleguas at one point, where you're always waiting for what Calleguas can get. What Calleguas is waiting for is a lot from Metropolitan, and so what we put in our report had everything to do with them.
And
But Amy, you fielding questions from purveyors is very helpful because small water systems don't have that expertise.
Well, it's true. Like the city of Camarillo several years ago, I mean, I think they had like an administrative person that had no idea about operations or, preparing their CCR. So it's a good opportunity for us to help our purveyors and yeah.
my last question was going to be, with everything you already do, doing the reports twice per year, how much is that going to increase your workload?
It'll be, I mean, if it doesn't change, hopefully it won't be too much. So I think it won't be too bad. I think that won't be the hugest thing. But yeah, it's another regulation change that's addition. It's a lot of work when we're first getting it because like I said, Metropolitan they have a very large staff. And so they're doing review, and we get it to us. And it's like, we have maybe 3 days to review all their data and then send it out to our, so we just kind of set that time aside as it's going to be a busy time, so.
Thank you, Amy.
Sure.
Any more questions on the, on item 3? Item 8.4, water quality and operations risk associated with invasive species.
Okay. So I'm just going to talk about quaggas and golden mussels. Some of you were in the operations committee meeting. We talked about it a little bit more in depth, but quagga mussels are not new to us. They've been in the Colorado River system since 2007. Metropolitan found them in Lake Havasu. They're pretty identifiable. You can see they've got that sort of pale color on their hinge and they've got these dark concentric rings. When we first started our program, we went out to United's Lake Piru and took a look and were able to see some pretty big samples there. And so, yeah, that's pretty representative of what they look like. Then it's hard to tell, but there's these little bristle threads that come out, and that's what the organism attaches to. So they need a hard surface to attach to. And so they attach to, like you'll see in the picture below, the intake structures or pipes, and then they attach on each other. So just because it doesn't look like, oh, that's a sort of a small area, it's muscle upon muscle upon muscle. So they're definitely quick to grow. And they're originally from the Ukraine. So I feel like they're just like vacation here. The water quality is so much nicer. And so they're able to spawn all year round. So I read that a female can produce over 1 million eggs per year. So that's quite a bit. And there's 2 stages. They have the planktonic villager stage where they move around and they're kind of in the water column. And then you have the adult form, which are benthic, which stay on the bottom and they're attached to things. They're filter feeders. And this is a picture of a divert metropolitan scraping mussels off an intake structure. And then you have the golden mussels. I haven't seen these ones, thank goodness, in person, but they're dark on the top and then they have these yellow rings around them. And then on the bottom, I think they're yellow too. So that's why they've gotten the name golden mussel. Much like the quaggas, they have the 2 life stages and the monitoring for them luckily is very similar. They were found recently in the Delta in October 2024. And this map shows where they've been found to date. It's on the Fish and Wildlife or Fish and Game website. And they also are very productive in this climate. They're originally from Asia, and they think they were brought over in the ballast water on a ship. And the reason why the Goldens are even a little bit more opportunistic than the quaggas is because they can survive in wider ranges of like salinity. They were able to live in the Delta. And then also the calcium is the big point that's, I think, scaring a lot of water utilities is because they, to survive, they can live at like 3 milligrams per liter of calcium, and they need that to build their shell. And just for reference, Jensen water that we get is 35 and Weymouth is 70. So they can survive in pretty low concentrations of calcium. So that's one thing that people are concerned about. And they also, so let's say something else. Oh, they've also been found all over the Delta. Oh, I read also that there's a treatment plant on the California River aqueduct, and it's a conventional plant, so it can remove the villagers, but there's also bypass. So these guys are able to get around and move around the system pretty well. So.
You mean when they scrape them off, is that pretty much it for them, or is just get it out of our way?
Yeah, but then they put them out to dry and then they'll be, yeah, but that's pretty much it. Is that what you're asking? Like to kill them? Like the scraping won't kill them? No.
They just scrape them off and it stays in the water.
Yeah, no, yeah. Then yep. You have to scrape them and then put them aside and dry them out. So, and so the risk, I think we've all seen the pictures of the clogged pipes and the intake structures. So that reduces the flow to treatment plants and things. But I think the things that we don't think about as much as like, well, when those pipes are completely embedded with mussels, we have to shut down maybe our plants or our pipelines. So that's costing water utilities money and time. And then also Metropolitan on their Colorado River system, they chlorinate to kill the villagers. And so that's an increased chemical cost for them. Also, once we're just doing our program as a presence absence sort of thing. So, but it's still extra time and money to monitor for these invasives. But once you find them, it's a full blown effort. Like not only are you going to be doing qualitative, but you're going to do quantitative surveys. So that's an increase in cost and time. And then also they are filter feeders, so they improve the water quality. And you think, oh, that's good, lower turbidity for treatment plants, right? But actually it allows the water, the temperatures to increase a lot more. So the lake turnover is different. And then also just like the other animals and things that live in the lake are affected. And then these guys actually are able to selectively remove phytoplankton. And so that messes up the food web. You've pulled out one organism and now some blue-green algae can survive and bloom. And so then treatment plants have odor and taste problems and all kinds of other issues. And these pictures here I've included are, the top one is a chlorination station at Lake Matthews. And then the bottom one is, so Metropolitan, it's illegal to transport wagga mussels. And so anytime, anytime they're doing discharge or they're shut down, they have to make sure that they're filtering their discharge. So you think about when we're shutting down our pipeline, millions and millions of gallons. So this is like a cartridge filter on a little trailer that they take around to their different, and they do it different ways. They put them in like beds, but you can't transport them from one body of water to another body of water. So that's the way they get around doing it.
Yeah, even if you go, when we toured the lab on the infrastructure tour last, in May, they have some dead ones and that they have to have like special permission from the state to even have that. And it cannot leave that room.
Right. Yeah, you can't have, it's illegal to have them in your possession, right? Yeah.
Yeah, they were very, very serious. It's very interesting to see them like up close and personal.
Yeah, right. And I mean, Metropolitan has a whole lake management team and, that's a big part of what they do. They're out looking for the quaggas and looking for other invasives and doing other monitoring for Metropolitan. And then, so how do we mitigate these quaggas? Well, we have our early monitoring invasive mussel program. We look for both stages of life. Christine, the picture of Christine, she's out.
Yeah, this isn't
cross training.
Regular job.
She's cross training with us.
Although it was fun.
I was gonna say you hire a general manager.
Yeah, you can see the substrate. So there we're looking for the adults. And then in the middle photo, we're doing our plankton toes, looking for the villagers. And then the picture on the left is what you see once we've taken the villager samples, we send them to Scripps, and that's what you see. And they look for them under the microscope. And then also we can advocate for effective and flexible species control policies. Those are the two tools we have in our toolbox.
I'm wondering, between the two mussels, it's quagga and the golden mussel, can they cohabitate? Can they live together or one kind of grow over the other one?
Yeah, that'd be interesting to know if one would be a little bit stronger in that. Yeah, I don't know that they've looked into that, but I mean, they definitely can cohabitate. Yeah. Yeah. Hopefully they don't somehow become a super species, right? Like,
yeah, right.
Calcium.
Yeah, yes, you could get less calcium. Yeah.
I assume we're at a lower risk of the potential for contamination without recreational.
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So our single point of, I take that back. Water in could be a culprit, and then I guess the helicopters and.
Helicopters, yeah, and like maybe birds and.
Yeah, or wildlife.
Yeah. Right.
Ducks.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
I think that risk is low, but it's not non-existent.
They got fish into my grandma's pond, so they carry stuff on their.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Amy.
Thanks, Amy.
Thank you guys.
Okay. And that, we have a general counsel's report.
Just a quick update since the last meeting. I've been working with the manager of HR and risk management on the changes to the admin code, the manager of engineering on construction claims, and have initiated work and will be continuing to work with the general manager and deputy GM on various district agreements that will be forthcoming in the future. And since we just came to the end of the second quarter, quarterly legal summary for second quarter will be coming in short.
Do we have, we haven't had any committee meetings. So
We have not since the last board meeting.
Committee reports, board member reports on ancillary duties, aqua rethink.
Oh, okay. So Director McMillan, you can jump in and I've gone too far. I guess I'll start with just saying that July 15th, Aqua has a combating misinformation and communications. Kathy Green sent out a reminder to everybody about the committees recommended for September 19th. And that election the process begins July 21st. And on July 23rd, there's a president and VP town hall, so that can inform your vote. And I think that's all I have for that.
Yeah, JPI.
Okay, I went to Roseville and for the Workers' Compensation Committee meeting, and I just want to start with saying that the most impressive thing that hit me at the beginning of the meeting was that the Workers' Compensation Program in the fall of 24 underwent they have oversight by state regulators and independent auditors. And so they had to participate in 3 formal audits. One was state law compliance, profile audit review, it's called, and then utilization review, which is a medical review standards. And then they had an independent audit, which was program performance. And so they, of course, did an excellent job in all those categories. So I was very impressed, especially with the full report of the independent auditors review. The executive committee, which followed our workers' comp recommendations on that Thursday, was on Friday. So I'm going to read the action items that we had. The memorandum of coverage, the workers' comp to July 1st, it had some different edits, but it will include a revision to a section changing the reference to the defense panel policy, litigation management policies. Litigation management guidelines. And then the excess insurance renewal, which we approved, it was the executive committee approved Safety National's reinsurance renewal terms as presented with an effective date of July 1st, 2025. Safety National offered a 3% decrease in the rate. This is above the, we have a retention of 2 million. So Safety National kicks in above that. And so they offered a package on the excess insurance for 25-26 to be decreased in 3%. And then the 26-27 is part of the offer as well. It would be a rate pass. So there would be no action by Safety National to raise rates from there. Member contributions, we had to decide and approved by the executive committee, no rate increase in member contributions effective July 1st, 2025. That's while facing a 5% increase it's not known, it's estimated loss rate coming up. So it's a choice, but we made it 5.7 million in retrospective contribution adjustments. That goes to a different fund for each member. And that's all I have.
Okay. Thank you, Director Quady. AWA.
AW Waterwise, there was a presentation about removing and forgive my pronunciation, but
Matilaha
Dam. It's a complex project of bridges and levee hardening and right of way and ecosystem recovery, but an interesting effort and it's a great presentation. The guest speaker was
Jeff Palmer.
The
Assistant Public Works Director for the county.
Yep. Great. Thanks.
Watts Canyon GMA.
Yes, I did attend June 25th GMA board meeting remotely. Like usual, GMA board meetings are long, more than 2 hours. There were 3 items that are of interest to us. They're all related to Las Posas Valley Basin Optimization Plan and consultant contracts. The board approved all of staff's recommendations. What that means for the basin at this juncture is a consultant will start working on this plan, and they're also going to start working on the modeling of the basin. That will help us to look at where we stand with the groundwater levels as we speak and how to optimize the basin. And GMA board also received and filed budgets for water master and also for GMA board through May 30th of this year. Those are the items I think of interest to the board. Others are all some appeals and some other items.
2 hours and 2 minutes. Thank you.
2 hours and 22 minutes.
I mean,
I record everything.
and your brief was 2 minutes.
2 hours.
All right, thank you, Director Pacala. Metropolitan Water District.
Yes, on June 19th, I was returning home from the Delta Construction Authority meeting in Sacramento. June 22nd to 23rd, we had a special board meeting at Metropolitan, and you can see the 7 items we approved. One of which is we have selected a recruiting firm to hire our new GM. It's going to be moving very rapidly. We expect to have that person hired by August or September because Devin is going to be leaving. Devin, the current general manager, at the end of the year for sure. We want there to be a little overlap so they can have some continuity. And let's see. On June 26th, I attended MODOC's Water Summit at the West Coast Plaza and MWD Legal and Claims Planning Committee, June 20th. Oh, that's out of order. Oh, yeah. That should be the 30th. That's why. Pardon me.
What I was gonna ask about that is what you mentioned earlier about DCA and DCA advocating efforts. Does Metropolitan have anything else planned?
Yeah, that's what I was on the call for. As you know, the governor's language on the trailer bill was dropped regarding the DCA. Metropolitan, or let's say the chair, is not very happy about that. So we're strategizing and trying to get our legislators to get charged up and interested in this. We're finding there's very lackluster support for that, as you encountered when you went to Sacramento.
Yeah.
And it's kind of shocking because it's like they don't understand how important water is and how they're, by not approving, moving that language forward, what the damage they're doing to their own community. And it's unfortunate. And Aqua also did not support the trailer language, which there's going to be consequences for that. No, Adonis not going to be sending anyone to the fall conference. So-
What's the daily delay cost? Like $1 million a day? DCE?
Million a day. Yeah,
Million a day.
that was the statistic that was cited.
It's,
And that's it.
it's interesting. It's again, disappointing from the perspective of, I guess, our communities and I guess those representatives will find out if hopefully the levies don't ever fail, but if they do, they'll find out the damage they've caused.
Mhm.
And of course, our staff is continuing to pursue advocacy efforts as well. More details to come on that.
Thank you. LAFCO, there is no report, no meeting was canceled for this time. The County Regional Energy Alliance,
No meetings were held. Nothing to report.
BCSDA.
No meeting since last meeting?
Okay, let's go around the room. Item 3, director's list of admin code reimbursable meetings other than ancillary duties. Director McMillan.
Yes, on June 20th, Christine and I met with Dave Peterson to discuss his interest in being interviewed for the GM position at MEP. And then on the June 25th, Simi Valley's Ledge Advocacy Committee. And June 27th, I had cybersecurity training for the insider threat. June 28th, CSDA training on grassroots advocacy and public outreach. June 29th, CSDA training, the critical nature of communications. And July 2nd, board meeting tonight.
Okay. Robert.
This last board meeting, other than AWA, I viewed the Metropolitan Finance and Asset Management Committee. On the 23rd, the 24th, the special joint board meeting. Our Board of Directors, Executive Committee. And 26th, Oxnard City Council, and tonight's board meeting.
Thanks, you, Director Robert. Director McCollum.
Yes, today's tonight's Calleguas board meeting. On June 20th, I toured ASR Wellfield with our general manager and deputy general manager. On June 26th, I went to the Calleguas Purveyors meeting with Camarillo Water Conditioning Facility.
Director Quady.
On June 19th, I meeting with the GM, and as I mentioned before, June 25, 26 as Roseville, and tonight's board meeting.
Thank you, Director Quady. For myself, since the last board meeting, on the 20th, I attended the U.S. Chamber of Commerce held a National Civics Bee for students 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. I was invited to be a judge. So on the 20th, I attended the preparation meeting, and on the 21st, we had the U.S. Chamber National Civics Bee students from all over California, 13 attended the state finals, which was here at the Reagan Library. I sat there with Jack Irwin, Assembly Member Jack Irwin, and two Conejo Valley representative of the Chamber of Commerce and a Simi Valley member of the representative staff member. It was incredible to see what these students are learning about civics and their local leaders. And the winner was a boy who submitted an essay about he called it what do you call it? It was a trash pickup. So doing volunteer work, picking up trash around the community. And his essay was about how he wanted to create a plan to motivate his fellow students to pick up trash and do volunteer work. And he won because that was his essay, what his goal was. That was when he submitted his essay to regionals. He was selected state. By the time he got to us, he had completed everything he had said he would like to achieve in his essay. So he didn't present to us what he would like to accomplish, which was in his essay. He presented to us, I met with these representatives. I met with these nonprofits. I started a club in my school to pick up trash, and he received donations to buy supplies. So it was incredible to see, what our members of the community can do if they actually put their mind to it. And this 7th grader, incredible is so he was the winner. And that was on the 21st. And on the 25th, we had the Simi Valley Chamber of Commerce Legislative Affairs Committee on Wednesday. I called into that one from my vacation in Costa Rica, and we got an update about the county from the county CEO. And tonight's board meeting. And with that, we have discussion regarding upcoming meetings to be attended by board members.
Can I highlight two things?
Sure.
One is that I know we will be missing Director Quady at the next board meeting while he vacations. So if there's anyone else who's going to be out, please or not present in person, please let us know so we can be sure to have a quorum. And the other thing I'd like to mention is that on Friday, the 18th, Southern California Water Coalition will be holding their quarterly meeting at the Reagan Library. We do have a table there. So if you're interested in attending, please let Karen know no later than about the middle of next week. Bye.
Thank you. Okay, request for future agenda items.
Oh, you want to tell us about our upcoming meetings or only?
Anything that's not anything that you don't regularly already attend or that's not listed in the.
Right, yeah, I have a couple of.
Okay.
The 8-C-4, right? On July 10th, 2025, I'm planning to attend GMA Executive Committee meeting in Ventura. July 15th, GMA Fiscal Committee meeting in Winter.
Thank you.
As far as the board comments, I do have a comment. I will be out of state in the last 2 weeks of July. After the next board meeting, I will be on. I plan to be home before our August board meeting. For some reason, if I'm not home, I'll let Jim know.
Thank you, Director.
So awesome.
Request for future agenda items? Okay. Board comments?
I would just like to say, I don't know if I can comment on information items here, but I just want to say, there's a lot of work there, of course, in the information items, but I just wanted to say that one letter really struck me. And this was the coalition support letter for Chair Diane Papin. And I was really impressed with the statement in it where it says, California needs to align the state's water supply strategy and policies with a target that will result in an adequate and reliable water supply for all beneficial uses, including the environment, agriculture, the economy, and all Californians. I thought that was just a very powerful statement. There's a lot of things said there, but I mean, that's one that really struck me. So thank you.
Sure.
I do have a question for Charlotte on some of the items you listed. Senate Bill 72, AB 580, SB 454, SB 394, all of them. What's the status of those bills?
Okay, so they are moving through the process. I would have to look up each one individually, Director Pacala, to let you know the exact status, but they are moving through. They've all made it over to the second house because the deadline has passed. But yes, they are moving throughout the process.
Thank you.
Any other questions on item 11, the information items? You have a need for a closed session?
We do not.
No. And with that, thank you, everyone.